Last month, a guy making $132,000 a year stood in a Trader Joe's parking lot for 10 full minutes debating whether he should cancel a ski trip because his car needed new tires. Not a Ferrari. A 6-year-old Subaru with 94,000 miles and one broken speaker. He canceled the trip. Then he drove home to an apartment that costs more per month than his parents' mortgage ever did. This is the part nobody wants to admit out loud anymore. There are people making more money than they ever imagined while feeling financially claustrophobic almost every single day.
Not broke, not starving. Just permanently one problem away from panic. And once you see the math behind it, you can't unsee it.
My name's Jordan, and recently I've become weirdly obsessed with how many successful people are quietly living like economic stunt doubles. Because somewhere along the way, 6 figures stopped meaning stability. It became survival with better branding. This isn't really a video about budgeting. It's about the slow inflation of what counts as a normal adult life. About why people with respectable careers now talk about dentist appointments the way previous generations talked about buying boats. And honestly, once you run the numbers, the entire idea of a good income starts feeling psychologically broken.
Chapter 1. The salary that was supposed to fix everything.
There was a time when earning 6 figures sounded mythical, like you had officially escaped ordinary life. You imagined hardwood floors, retirement accounts, weekend trips, maybe a golden retriever emotionally thriving in a backyard. Instead, the shocking number of people hit $100,000 and immediately discover they're still doing mental math in grocery stores. Here's what nobody explains. The emotional promise attached to 6 figures was built in a completely different economy. In the early 1990s, hitting that income level often meant you would enter genuine upper-middle-class territory.
Today, it mostly means you can absorb moderate emergencies without physically blacking out.
That's the upgrade. Let's run a realistic example. Say someone earns $105,000 in a city like Austin, Denver, Portland, or Raleigh. After taxes, healthcare deductions, retirement contributions, and payroll deductions, their take-home pay lands somewhere around $6,200 a month. Sounds decent, until adulthood starts charging admission fees. Rent for a clean 1-bedroom in a safe neighborhood, $2,100. Car payment, $480. Insurance, $210. Groceries, $650, because apparently blueberries now require venture capital funding. Utilities, internet, phone, $320. Student loans, $400. Health costs, $250 minimum. Retirement savings, $800 if they're trying to behave responsibly. Suddenly, the good salary shrinks fast. Now add life, a friend's wedding in Chicago, a prescription your insurance randomly decides is non-essential, a flight home for Thanksgiving that somehow costs the GDP of a small island nation. And this is where modern adulthood gets psychologically weird. Because on paper, these people are succeeding, but emotionally, they feel unstable. That disconnect changes people, quietly. Chapter 2. The new version of doing well. I want you to picture a woman named Alyssa, 34, project manager, makes $126,000 a year. Her LinkedIn looks incredible. Her actual life looks like this. She shares a 2-bedroom apartment with a roommate she doesn't even particularly like because living alone would cost another $1,400 a month. She hasn't replaced her winter coat in 4 years because every time she's about to buy one, something else happens first. Last February, it was brakes. Before that, it was a root canal. Before that, her rent increased by $370 in one renewal cycle because apparently landlords discovered recreational violence. Every month she tells herself, once I get through this month, I'll finally start saving aggressively. Then another month arrives, and another, and another. This is the real emotional effect nobody talks about. People aren't just financially stretched anymore, they're mentally occupied, constantly. There's always some low-level financial anxiety running in the background like an app draining battery life. Alyssa checks her bank account before agreeing to dinner plans, not because she's irresponsible, because she's trying to avoid becoming one unexpected expense away from credit card debt. And the craziest part? Her parents think she's rich. That generational disconnect is becoming enormous. Older generations still hear six figures and imagine abundance. Younger adults hear six figures and think, okay, maybe I can finally stop sharing walls with strangers. Those are radically different interpretations of the same number.
Chapter 3. The economy punishes you for being alone.
Here's where the story gets darker. Modern life has quietly become designed around needing two incomes, not wanting two incomes, needing them. Housing assumes couples. Taxes reward couples. Insurance favors couples. Even groceries are cheaper per person when you're feeding two people instead of one. Single adults are basically paying a financial loneliness surcharge. And nobody says this out loud because it sounds dramatic until you actually do the math. A couple making $180,000 combined can split rent, utilities, subscriptions, furniture, travel costs, and emergencies.
A single person making $100,000 absorbs every expense alone. One car repair, their problem. One rent increase, their problem. One layoff, potentially catastrophic. This is why so many financially responsible adults still feel fragile. They're carrying modern life without redundancy. You can see the social effects everywhere now. 35-year-olds with roommates.
Professionals moving back in with parents after layoffs. People delaying relationships because dating itself became expensive. People staying in bad relationships because splitting up would double their living costs overnight. That's not romance. That's macroeconomics wearing skinny jeans. And nobody talks about the identity crisis this creates, because adulthood used to mean independence. Now, independence often means financial punishment. If this video feels painfully familiar, subscribe. Because modern adulthood has become incredibly confusing. And honestly, a lot of people feel like they're secretly failing at a game whose rules changed without warning. We're going to keep unpacking that here. Chapter 4. The High Earner Panic Nobody Sees. Now here's the statistic that should genuinely concern people. A recent financial survey found that a huge percentage of Americans earning over $150,000 still describe themselves as financially stressed, not mildly stressed, actively stressed. And at first glance, that sounds absurd until you understand what high-income life actually costs now. A couple making $220,000 in a major metro can still end up financially cornered surprisingly fast. Mortgage, childcare, healthcare, student debt, retirement contributions, property taxes, insurance premiums that now rise like they're trying to escape Earth's atmosphere. One family in California told researchers they spend nearly $4,200 a month on childcare for 2 kids. That is not childcare anymore. That is a second mortgage for humans too small to use microwaves. And this creates a bizarre new class of Americans. People who earn objectively elite incomes while feeling emotionally middle class at best. They look successful from the outside. Nice apartment, good jobs, vacation photos twice a year. Then, privately, they're postponing dental work and arguing about grocery delivery fees. That's the hidden crisis. The collapse isn't always visible. It's emotional. People don't feel secure anymore. They feel rented.
Chapter 5. The Lie About Making It.
Here's the part that changed how I think about all of this. A lot of people are still chasing financial milestones designed for an economy that no longer exists. That's the real trap. People think, once I hit 6 figures, everything relaxes. Then they arrive and discover the finish line moved again. So they aim for 150,000, then 200,000. And eventually, they realize they're sprinting on a treadmill wearing business casual. The issue isn't just inflation, it's expectation inflation. We inherited an image of adulthood built during decades when housing was cheaper, education was cheaper, healthcare was cheaper, and one income could support an entire household. That world is gone, but psychologically, we still compare ourselves against it every day. Which means millions of people now feel like failures for not achieving a version of life that became mathematically unrealistic before they even entered adulthood. And honestly, that creates a level of quiet shame I don't think society fully understands yet. Because these people can't publicly struggle. If you make good money, people assume you're fine. So the stress stays hidden until it leaks out sideways through burnout, anxiety, delayed families, collapsing relationships, and people waking up at 2 a.m. calculating whether they can afford replacing a water heater. That's the modern version of doing well. A friend told me something recently that I haven't stopped thinking about. He said, "I spent most of my 20s trying to earn enough money to finally feel safe. Then I got there and realized the target itself was moving faster than my career." That's it. That's the feeling. People aren't just exhausted from working. They're exhausted from chasing stability in an economy where stability itself became a luxury product. It may be the healthiest thing a person can do in 2026 is stop treating old expectations like personal obligations. Maybe success now looks smaller. Maybe it looks quieter. Maybe it looks like lower expenses instead of higher status. Maybe it looks like refusing to bankrupt yourself, trying to perform a version of adulthood designed in 1987. Because the old dream didn't disappear. It got repriced. And most people are still blaming themselves for not being able to afford it. Run your own numbers. Not your parents' numbers, not Instagram's numbers. Not the version of adulthood sold in bank commercials. Yours. Because if the math feels impossible lately, there's a very real chance the problem isn't you. It's the era. If you know someone making good money while quietly stressing about every unexpected expense, send them this video. A lot of people feel completely alone in this right now. And if you want more conversations about the psychology of money, modern adulthood, and the weird economic reality we're all trying to navigate, subscribe. My name's Jordan.
See you in the next one.